Welcome to everyone. This week video will cover the SP 500, the gold market and the US dollar. This update will be for the week of November 13, 2023. Before we start, make sure you read carefully the disclaimer. If you like this video, don't forget to click on the like button, subscribe and click on the bell to make sure you don't miss any future videos. Let's start with the long term on the SP 500. The last SP 500 update was on August 7, 2023. Let's start with the 18-month cycle. The last 18-month cycle low was on October 2022. The peak of this cycle was on August 2023 at 4,527.76. The next low is expected on the first quarter of 2024. The success rate for the 18-month cycle is 100%. On April 2023, the market crossed above his cycle line at 4,010.59 for a potential target at 4,529.60. With a high at 4,527.76 on August, the market met his target. The 40-week cycle. Like on the Dow Jones Industrial Average update last week, we still have some uncertainty where to place the last 40 weeks cycle low. The first option is the July low is the 40 weeks low. The second option is the low occur on middle of August. What are the implication of the two different scenario? We will be able to solve this question on the shorter time frame. The 20-week cycle. This week rally found resistance on his cycle line. If the next week the market crossed sharply above it, this will be the first sign of the first option validity. If next week the market resume his decline, then there is a high probability the second option is valid. On September 18, the market crossed below his cycle line at 44.67 for a potential target at 42.32. On October 27 with a low at 41.03, the market met the target. Success rate for this cycle is 100%. Now let's see the different options. On the first option, if the October low is the 20 weeks low, the next low is expected on February 10, which will form at the same time the low of the 18 months. On the second option, the 20 weeks low is scheduled on the first week of January 2024, and the last one of this 18-month cycle is on April 27. Let's see the implication on the lower time frame. The 80 days cycle. No matter which option, the October 27 is the 80 days low. And the next cycle is a new 80 days cycle. Since that date the market crossed above his cycle line at 4,300, providing an upside target at 44.97. The peak for this 80 days cycle is expected around the first week of December. And the low in the first week of January 2024. The success rate for this cycle is 100%. The 40 days cycle. The way to find out which option is valid is by observing how the market will interact with his cycle lines. If you want more details about the role of the cycle lines, I suggest to watch my videos on Introduction to Cycles. I posted the link below. The next 40 days low is expected on November 30th, the yellow zone on the chart. On October 12th the market crossed above his cycle line at 43.60 providing a potential target at 45.04. The target has not been met, confirming the bearishness of the market. Then crossed back below his lines on October 23 at 42.48 for a potential target at 41.03. The 4,103.78 low on October 27, the market met the target. On November 8, the market crossed above his cycle lines at 43.57 and 43.61 for a potential upside target at 46.11 and 46.20. The success rate for this cycle is 77.78%. The peak for this cycle is expected around November 15. If the peak occur before this date, then this will be bearish for the market. And if it's occur after, then the following correction should be moderate. When we will know this 40 days peak has formed? We will find out with the 20 days cycle. The 20 days cycle. This cycle will provide us lots of informations. The last 20 days cycle low occur on October 27th with a low at 41.03. Since, the market crossed above his cycle line on November 2nd at 42.68 for a potential target at 44.33. Yesterday high was 4,393. The success rate for this cycle is 88.89%. The next low is expected today on November 10th. Technically, the market should move toward his cycle line and finding a support on it. Then should resume his up move. The cycle line for this cycle is very important, depending if the market will find support or cross below. This will be an important piece of information. If the market finds support, this is short-term bullish sign, if not it will be bearish. This is the first piece of information about to where to place the 40-week cycle low. The second piece of information will be, when the 20 days low is confirmed, I will draw a trend line from the October low to the 20 days low. When the market will break below this trend line, this will confirm the 40 days peak is formed or in formation. Then we will watch where the 40 days peak occurred, compared to the peak of the cycle on the 40 days chart. If the peak has formed on the left side of the cycle, this will be bearish, then the second option is more likely. If it's happened on the right side, then will be bullish. In this case, the first option have a higher probability to be the correct analysis. Let's finish with the 10 days cycle. This 10 days cycle low is expected today, November 10th. The next one is scheduled for November 17th. On November 1st, the market crossed above his cycle line at 41.92 for a potential target at 42.82. With a high at 4,319 the next day, the market meet the target. Success rate is 100%. On very short term, it looks like there is bullishness in the market. Because, technically at the time of the 20 days low formation, the market should cross below his cycle line and find support on the 20 days cycle line, before crossing back above his cycle line. Now let's see the gold market. On the long-term picture, there is nothing new from the last week analysis. For more details about this analysis, I recommend to watch last week video to make sure I won't repeat myself. For this reason, I will start this week analysis with the 40 days cycle. Last week I mentioned the next low is scheduled for November 10th. And there is a high probability the market should find support on his cycle lines. Actually, the gold market crossed below his cycle line at 183.09 and 181.75 for a target zone between 179.82 and 177.14. Today's low art 179.25 meet his target. The success rate is 100%. I also mentioned I will draw a trend line from the October low to the 40 days low. If the market make a new low next week, I will adjust the trend line. When the market will cross below this trend line, this will give an important information about the 80 days peak formation. This will mean the 80 days cycle peak is formed or in formation. At that time, on the 80 days cycle chart, we will watch whether this peak has formed compared to the peak of the cycle. If there is a left time translation, then we can expect a sharp correction. If there is right time translation, we can expect a moderate correction. For more details on time translation, I posted below the link for my series of video on Introduction to Cycles. The 20 days cycle. In the last week update, I expected the next 20 days cycle low is expected between November 8th and 9th. And at that time, technically, the market should cross below his cycle line and provide a downside target. The success rate for this cycle is 91.67%. On November 7th, the market crossed below his cycle line at 183.34 for a potential downside target at 180.32. Yesterday low at 180.35 meet the target. The 10 days cycle. The market still below his cycle line, and any crossing above it will confirm the 10, 20, 40 days cycle have formed. Here the resistance line and their potential target for next week. The success rate is 84.62%. Let's switch to the US dollar. The US dollar is an uptrend from July. The last 18-month cycle formed a low on July 2023 and the next one is scheduled on December 2024. For the next 8 months, the trend is up. Around March 2024, we should see the peak of this cycle. At that time it will be very important to see where the peak will occur, compared to the peak of the cycle. The red dashed line. Because the principle of the synchronicity, all cycles begin on July 2023 at 99.57. The rally since the July low, find resistance on his cycle line. Here the resistance line and the potential target, if the market will cross his cycle line. The 40 weeks cycle. As mentioned above, the 40 weeks started on July 14, 2023. On July, the market crossed above his cycle line at 102.64 for 105.70 target. With a high at 107.35 on September, the target have been meet and exceed. The success rate for this cycle is 66.67%. The next 40 weeks low is expected on March 2024. The peak of this cycle is expected to form soon. The 20-week cycle. From July 2023 low, we have already formed one 20-week cycle. The low was on November 6th. This cycle was bullish and the next one should be neutral to slightly bearish. The market should find support on his cycle line. Then resume his rally, and certainly, make a high, higher than the October 3rd. When we will know this 20 weeks peak will form? When the market cross below the uptrend line, draw from the July to November 6th low. This will confirm the actual 20 weeks peak is formed, and at the same time, the 40 weeks peak. At that time the market should cross below his cycle line, providing a downside target. There is a high probability the market will find support on the 40 weeks cycle line. On August the market crossed above his cycle line at 102.89, providing a 106.82 target. On October 3rd high at 107.35 meet the target. The success rate is 66.67%. The 80 days cycle. This cycle started on November 6th, with a low at 104.85. The next low is expected for January 13, 2024. This 80 days cycle should be relatively bullish. But the next one should be neutral to bearish. There is a probability the market will cross above his cycle line to provide an upside target. If the market don't cross above his cycle line to form the peak, this will mean there is some bearishness in the market. On November 3rd, the market crossed below his cycle line at 106.16 for a potential at 104.97. With a low at 105.02 meet the target. The success rate is 83.33%. The 40 days cycle. The last 40 days low was on November 6th. The next low is expected on December 10th. The market should cross above his cycle line to form the peak around the 3rd weeks of November. When the peak has formed, the market should find support on his cycle lines. On November 2nd, the market crossed below his cycle line at 106.16 for a potential target at 105.21, the November 6th low at 105.02 meet the target. The success rate is 100%. The 20 days cycle. The last one occur on November 6th and the next low is expected on November 23rd. At that time, the market should find support on his cycle line. On November 3rd, the market crossed below his cycle lines at 106 and 105.58. For a target zone between 104.89 and 104.05. The 104.85 November 6th low meet the top of the target zone. The success rate for this cycle is 100%. The 10 days cycle. The next 10 days cycle low is expected this week on Monday or Tuesday. The market should use his cycle line as support before resuming his up move. On November 9th, the market crossed above his cycle line at 105.54 for a potential target at 106.23. Today's high meet the target. The success rate is 94.44%. In conclusion, the uncertainty to where to place the last 40 weeks cycle on the SP 500 is for now purely academic. Because in both cases, in long term, the market's still bearish. The only difference is on the very short term. On the first option, the market is slightly bullish, and in the second option is bearish. On gold, the market on short term started his correction. The US dollar is bullish until March 2024. This is the end of this week's video. Thank you for following me. Next week, I will publish another market update.